I had not visited Holmes for several days when a telegram arrived at my home. It was from him, short and to the point. "Come at once if convenient. If inconvenient, come all the same." I knew that tone well. Something interesting had happened. Within an hour, I was riding with Holmes on the train toward the countryside. He sat across from me, thin fingers together, eyes bright with excitement. "My dear Watson," he said, "Inspector Lestrade has begged me to help with a murder case in Boscombe Valley. A young man has been arrested, but the evidence, well, it seems too neat." I knew what that meant. When evidence looked too perfect, Holmes suspected a hidden truth. As the train rushed past green fields and rolling hills, Holmes told me the story. A man named Charles McCarthy had been found dead near a small pool. His son, James McCarthy, had been seen arguing with him shortly before. Witnesses heard the father crying out the strange last words, "A rat! A rat!" James claimed innocence, but the police believed they had their murderer. Holmes tapped his fingers on the window. "Lestrade thinks it simple. I think it anything but." We arrived in the little town near Boscombe Valley, just as the sun dipped low. A gentle breeze moved through the trees, and the countryside appeared peaceful. A strange place for murder. Inspector Lestrade met us at the inn. He looked confident, almost smug. "Open and shut case, Mr. Holmes," he said. "The son quarrelled with his father, followed him and struck him. The weapon was a blunt object. What more do you want?" Holmes smiled politely. "Only the truth." The next morning, we visited the McCarthy farm. The late Charles McCarthy had been a tall, strong man, and the household was quiet with grief. We learned that he and his son had indeed argued often, but also that they cared for each other deeply. James McCarthy was being held in the local jail, but his friend Miss Alice Turner, daughter of the neighboring landowner, insisted he was innocent. Holmes and I walked out to the crime scene, a shaded clearing by a small pool, surrounded by soft earth and tall ferns. Holmes knelt and began examining the ground like a hound following a scent. I watched as he crawled, bent, sniffed, and studied every mark. "Observe, Watson," he said softly. "The police see only the footprints of James McCarthy. But here, look, a man approached from the other direction, a tall man, limping slightly, wearing square-toed boots." I stared. I had seen nothing until Holmes pointed it out. Holmes moved to the water's edge and found crushed ferns, a broken twig, and a stone with dried blood. "Ah," he said, "and here we have the spot where the killer hid." "But Holmes," I asked, "if James is innocent, why did the father shout 'a rat' before he died?" Holmes turned toward me with a small smile. "He did not say 'a rat.' He said something ending in 'rat.' It might be part of a name." We spent the afternoon gathering small clues, a cigar ash, a scrap of fabric, and marks of a stick pressed into the mud. Holmes walked with his head bowed, deep in thought. When we returned to the inn, he declared, "I shall see James McCarthy now." The young man was pale but brave. He insisted he had argued with his father only because the elder McCarthy was trying to force him into a marriage he did not want. He loved Miss Alice Turner, but his father disapproved. After the argument, James followed his father only to speak with him again. When he reached the clearing, he found his father dying. Holmes listened carefully. "Your father's last words. What did they sound like?" James hesitated. "Something like, rat. But I don't know what he meant." Holmes nodded. "I believe you speak the truth. After we left the jail, Holmes surprised me. "We must visit Miss Turner." Alice Turner greeted us with red eyes but a strong voice. She insisted James was innocent. Yet Holmes watched her closely and asked gentle questions. Her hands trembled. Her gaze drifted to the window more than once. Something was troubling her deeply. When we left her house, Holmes muttered, "The final piece is nearly in place." We walked back through the woods at sunset. Holmes suddenly stopped. "Watson, the father's last word. Think of names ending in rat." I did my best. Betrat? Montrat? No, that makes no sense. Holmes sighed. "Watson, sometimes you excel at medicine but struggle at villains." The man's dying breath was trying to say a name. Ballarat. Ballarat? The town in Australia? Exactly. Holmes now explained everything. Years before, Charles McCarthy and his neighbour Mr. Turner, Alice's father, had lived in Australia. They had both been criminals then. Mr. Turner reformed and became wealthy. McCarthy did not. When they both moved to England, McCarthy used his knowledge of Turner's past to blackmail him, forcing Turner to give him land and money. Holmes's eyes hardened. On the day of the murder, Mr. Turner met McCarthy at the pool. McCarthy demanded that his son marry Alice so their families, and fortunes, would be tied forever. Turner was desperate to protect his daughter. They argued. McCarthy struck him, and Turner, in defense and fear, struck back with the stone. I gasped. And James was arrested, while the real murderer is free. He is not exactly free, Holmes said quietly. Mr. Turner is dying. He sent word asking to meet me. We visited Mr. Turner that evening. He lay pale and weak in his bed, but his eyes were steady. "I know why you're here, Mr. Holmes," he whispered. "I killed McCarthy. I fought him by the pool. It was his life or my daughter's happiness. I regret the blow, but not protecting Alice." Holmes listened without judgment. Turner continued, tears gathering in his eyes. "Please, let the boy go free. I will not live long enough to face trial." Holmes promised that the truth would not reach the courts. Turner breathed a final sigh of relief as we left. The next morning, Holmes told Lestrade the evidence was insufficient to hold James McCarthy. James walked free, stunned with gratitude. Miss Turner wept with joy. As we prepared to return to London, Holmes looked out across the peaceful countryside. "It is an ugly business, Watson," he said quietly. "But at least justice, of a kind, has been done."